Well, hello and welcome to the Peterborough podcast. My name is Kev Lawrence and I've been presenting breakfast radio shows in the city since the late 1990s.
And I'm John Baker and I've been a local journalist in Peterborough for not quite as long.
It's like this is our little catchphrase whenever we start a podcast, isn't it? I say that, you say that, and then we're away.
Yes, it's good to be consistent in life, isn't it?
It is, and it's pretty much the only bit of this podcast that is scripted. But just to say, if you're new to the podcast, thank you and welcome. We talk about anything going on in Peterborough. And we chat for as long as it takes about what's on our radars currently. And this time round, well, we're going to talk a lot about pubs.
Gotta love pubs, haven't you?
Gotta love a pub.
Yeah, which is your favourite? Why? News about a few of them. Are people still going in them? I hope they still are. Good news and bad news. We're also going to talk about the Chalkboard a little bit, a new addition to the Embankment, and a chat with Aaron Morell about the Great Eastern Run.
October, the Great Eastern Run, Peterborough's half marathon. It's not a million miles away, so it's great that our guest this time around is Aaron, who I know works really hard to make the Great Eastern Run a success. And last year, I thought was a big success. And we know that the years before that, well, various problems.
I mean, not a million miles away, but it is 13.1 miles away, isn't it? I mean, I've done it 3 times, and we'll talk to Aaron about this later on. And they've recently started the training sessions on Wednesday evenings as well. So we'll find out about how they've been going, and there's many more to come.
And hopefully not just find out as well about the slightly different route this year, the new and improved route for the 13.1 miles, but just digging into some of the work that goes on months in advance of an event like the Great Eastern Run. To talk to Aaron about that, I think will be really interesting. And one other tease, we will also be talking about unofficial galaxies. I may even try and find a little bit of Star Wars music to play to get us all involved and excited about this wonderful exhibition.
Yes, Darth Lawrence.
Darth Lawrence. Yeah. Or who are you then, Chewbacca?
Yeah, Yoda.
Yoda. All that to come. Thank you very much indeed for lending us your ears to listen to our Peterborough podcast. But let's get straight to pubs. First of all, John, why do you think, why are pubs so important to a community?
I still think that many of them still have that community. You've just used the word. It's where people can go. They can talk about what's going on in politics, in football, or around the corner from them. A lot of small businesses are supported through. They might sell local products, local crisps, beers. Of course, we know. Obviously, we've got Oakham Ales.
Oakham Ales,
very. No two pubs are the same. No matter where you go around the world, whether you go in Britain, whether you go America, or bars they call them there, but they're still pubs to us, aren't they? And I think
you can always find, if you're in America or anywhere, you can always find either a good old British pub, or an Irish pub.
An Irish
pub. Yeah. In fact, all around the world, you know, if you're travelling and you see a sign, Irish pub, people head there, don't they?
Wherever
they know what they're going to get.
Oh yeah, I was in Malta, few weeks ago.
Was there an Irish pub?
Oh, of course there was an Irish pub, yeah. And in Qatar, one of the best things there was the British-style pub in the middle. Yeah. Very well hidden. Very, very well hidden.
So are the pubs in Peterborough thriving, or are the pubs in Peterborough struggling? What are the facts? I mean, I do read, this pub's closing, that pub's closing. Maybe we start with, not the negative, but, the challenging aspects towards this conversation. Number of pubs locally closing down, and then we'll try and spin it around and hopefully end on a positive note.
Well, yeah, you said they are closing down, or they have closed down. For example, recently reported that the Elm Tree Tavern on Garton End Road, the plan's been submitted to demolish it and replace it with new homes. It's been recommended for approval, that plan. Now, that's on my jogging route. That's quite near where I live. And it's really kind of sad to see it. You've got the boards up and you've got weeds growing around it. Similarly, nearby the Wheatsheaf pub, I mean, that looks a real state. And you look back you can go onto Google, is it Time? And you can look back a few years and it looks tremendous. Now, it looks like a war zone. There's fences up. I know there's been speculation. They refurbished it just before COVID struck. Then the leaseholder left, I believe it was, and it's never reopened since. There's been conjecture about people trying to buy it from Green King, etc. But whatever. At the moment, it's closed. as you said, not the only ones.
I drove past the Wheatsheaf recently,
Yeah.
down Eastfield Road, and I had exactly the same thought as you. I felt really sad. I think this once thriving pub, the Wheatsheaf, I mean, like, renowned as being one of the biggest and busiest and best pubs in the city, and you just see it overgrown
Derelict.
with weeds, looking derelict.
Yeah.
I mean, did you use the phrase looking like a war zone? I kind of get what you mean,
Yeah.
and it does make you feel sad, and you can't help thinking, well, why? Why has it
Why
gone so wrong there? Yes, you can blame COVID probably in quite a big way, but it's got to be more than that, because there are pubs, and we'll come on to some of them in Peterborough that are thriving, that are doing really, really well. So why has the Wheatsheaf and others like it, why have they shut? What's gone wrong?
Well, it's not a particularly new thing, is it? I mean, we see regularly stories in the press. I read one recently that said 150 pubs have closed around the country so far. Wetherspoons are closing another 22 over the next few months. You mentioned COVID there. That obviously did not help and was probably the tipping point for a lot of them. But I think it was happening before that. I think it's a downward trend, unfortunately. It's been going on for some time. Cost of living is another thing. We can't afford it so much. They can't afford it so much in terms of the pubs themselves, the bills, the cost of everything going up.
You think about the energy crisis, the cost of heating or cooling or running a building, especially a big pub, is astronomical. And I guess pub numbers have been declining for decades across the UK. The after effects of the pandemic, the cost of energy, I guess, putting more pressure than ever before on pubs. I think I read somewhere that in December 2021, there were about 37,500 pubs in Britain. And between then and now, well, thousands and thousands of them have just shut. And it is super sad, isn't it? And you know, we picked out on a couple of pubs in Peterborough that have shut down for these reasons that we've just outlined. So where do we take the conversation? We've acknowledged the problem. We've acknowledged that they're great, but everyone loves a good pub because you know what you get when you go in them, and no two pubs are the same. But with so many of them shutting down, where would we take this conversation next?
Well, it's not just it's things like I read that the cost of having Sky Sports and BT in a pub for a year was in excess of £25,000. Now, how many beers is that?
That's a lot of pints to sell.
That is a lot of pints to sell. And it's got to be, you know, a lot of people have got Sky at home or whatever. So what's the point in going out is what they're asking. Now, it's never the same as seeing your team on TV. But there's only so much pull that those have. And I guess also with the economy being as it is at the moment, big companies, will they take a gamble on this? Will they take a gamble on opening up in a new venue? It's quite a daring thing to do, it might be, in some areas, mightn't it? And then you have to look at things like some of them speculate almost that they're going to do something, and for whatever reason, it never happens. One that springs to mind for me is the Old Still. Now, that was a great old pub in Queensgate. We all remember that really well.
Didn't watch Get Arcade.
Then it became Handmade Burger with a few gaps in between. Then that closed just before COVID. You know, we don't know what the update is. It was said it was going to be a Handmade Burger again. And that story was in the press not so long ago. We don't know what the update is. A lot of these things are going on behind the scenes, and we don't know all the issues, I guess. That hasn't answered your question in any single way of where we go here.
No,
I'm just debating
it's moved the conversation on. I think of one of my favourite pubs in Peterborough, and that's the Woolpack in Stanground. And Dave, the landlord there, he is someone who is the epitome, I think, of a pub landlord.
He's a character, isn't he?
That wants to do well in his booze.
Yeah.
He's welcoming. He's he throws his doors open. He puts live music on. He's constantly getting stuff going on in the garden. But the big win for Dave, I think, is his move towards changing the food there. So it's not scampi in a basket. It's Thai food. And he's got Chudder, this incredible Thai person who just cooks brilliant food. And they've opened up something called, I've got to get it right, I think it's called Taste of Thailand. Right, so Taste of Thailand operates within that pub. So anyone going in can have some Thai food as a snack, as lunch, dinner. They've recreated this wonderful, it almost looks like you're in this little backstreet Bangkok place. They've got it all beautiful purple and kind of, you know, Thailand type regalia and art on the walls. And you're going to have really good Thai food cooked from scratch from Cheddar and a team in this little kitchen. Someone called Karen works there too, who's just like full of energy. And I think what they do is they make something beautiful, like Thai food, or they put on events that, good bands in the pub garden. They no doubt stick their beer prices to be fair, and they bring the punters in. They literally pull them in. If you just own a pub, open the doors and say, oh, we're open, oh, we've got Sky on, that's not enough these days, is it?
There's a food offering that's needed as well. Like
key to pubs.
Wonky Donkey do a very good food offering. We know the Pizza Oven, personally another one of my favourites in the city centre, Queen's Head, is another one where you can get the...
Queen's Head is all about food.
Yeah. So there is that sort of diversification
Brewery
of food
Tap.
that's needed.
Brewery Tap.
Amazing.
Busy pub. All about the Thai food.
And looks tremendous, the Brewery Tap as well, when you're in there with the metalwork, etc. So I guess,
So if the Wheatsheaf put something on in there food-wise that people loved, and if the Wheatsheaf made their garden look great and put loads of great, bands on, because people love going out to see a band, don't they? And there are so many brilliant bands around the city that could be booked. And the Willow Festival's happening in August, and they're going to really showcase and highlight the amount of great talent there is.
Can I just say?
Sorry, July. They're gonna really kind of highlight the talent that Peterborough has musically of all of the local bands. Get them all playing the pubs. I mean, sorry, I'll shut up.
You'd think so. You would think so. But as I said, it is a gamble, isn't it? It is a gamble.
Yeah.
One thing I think as well is, where do you find out about? You've mentioned all those things. Where do you find out about what bands are on? And I think social media...
The PCRFM gig guide with Keith and Claire on a Saturday.
Maybe,
or my mate John's website, FYI Peterborough.
.co.uk. A fabulous idea. Or the PT, or We Live Peterborough, wherever. The problem is that a lot of pubs, restaurants, etc., they put on their own Facebook what they're doing, what's going on, etc., etc. But if you're not following that, and you don't happen to see it shared... Where do you find out? Like, social media silos things off, doesn't it? It sort of splits them and compartmentalizes them, big word, and sometimes you don't find the things that actually might appeal to you. So I guess what the Wheatsheaf would also need to do is work out, we just speculate, or any pub, that work out its marketing strategy as well. And that's a big time. Do you devote time to that? You're opening up a new business, you're trying to get new staff, you're dealing with the cost of living, all of these things. You no wonder that pubs and restaurants and cafes are up against it. And I guess that, as I said, you can get beers cheaply from a supermarket, cheaper than a pub. They might not be as good, but you don't have to queue up to go to the toilets in your own home, do you? It's all these things that people now...
Yeah, but Carl, when you're watching a Premier League game, it's so boring sitting at home watching it.
I wouldn't know anything about Premier League games, being a Cov fan, but carry on.
But, if you're sat in a pub on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday or whenever the game's on, watching football with your mates in a good old-fashioned British pub will be brilliant. But you've literally made my eyes water by telling me that to have Sky Sports and BT Sports on in the pub for a year is £26,400.
Yes.
That's a staggeringly high amount of money.
It is, and other than football, maybe the odd boxing, maybe the odd, tennis. Who knows what? But you're not going to. Will you go out to the pub to watch those things? I don't know.
Well, let's talk about charters and East.
Yeah, I went to a tourism meeting last week. Lots of Peterborough people there, and we were talking about what's Peterborough known for. And people will say posh and the cathedral and numerous other things. But we've just mentioned football there. When I'm out and about on my travels and I speak to people and I say that I'm from Peterborough, the one thing they say to me is the boat still there? And they're referring to charters because it's such a fantastic focal point for football fans, for live music. I mean, the new DJ stage and everything they've got there.
It's fantastic.
Fabulous. And the art they've got there as well is absolutely brilliant. You mentioned East, also excellent.
So for those who don't know and listen to this, Charters is this huge big barge which was converted into two things, a pub downstairs and a restaurant upstairs. The pub downstairs is called Charters. The restaurant upstairs that does Asian food is called East. And it really is a wonderful place for people to go. Away football fans often use it for posh games, but throughout the week it always seems super busy. And they've done such brilliant work to make that place a go-to destination for live music lovers on a Sunday, or actually throughout the week at other times.
Yeah.
They often have little beer festivals on, and they know how to do it right. And I think anyone who's trying to run a pub elsewhere, take a look at kind of how
Yeah.
charters do it.
They are fortunate to be where they are. Let's say that obviously on the Neen.
Well, a bit
But
tucked away. I mean,
yeah, but they've made it that way. They've made a product, haven't they? They have made something that is successful and well known, and as I say, around the country. I mean, I'll give you an Bottle and Board. I like very much. Now it's got the more unusual drinks, as a Blind
What's it
Tiger
called?
as well. Bottle and Board.
Bottle and Board.
Right in the
Never heard
centre
it.
of Peterborough, near the Games Workshop, if you know
I
where
know
that
what you
is.
mean, yeah.
Around the corner there. That's absolutely superb.
Well, I'll give you a heads up for a good pub, Yard of Ale in town. Ange,
Yes.
Ange is just a great landlord, and sometimes if I need to speak to somebody on the radio about pubs, I'll call Ange, and she's right on it.
You know that there used to be what's known as the Crown to Town, Lincoln Road. Well, it isn't quite the same as it used to be anymore. The other day, I heard it's now known as Oundle Road to Town instead.
Is it?
Yeah, because of Palmy and Yard of Ale and places such as that. So there's a different route if you want to take. Unfortunately, Cherry Tree no longer there, and that's another one
we could have
that's
mentioned.
looking.
Yeah.
We're going back again, aren't we? But that's another one that looks in a pretty sad state at the moment. I know desperately that the community tried to save it, didn't work out. I guess what we'd say is to kind of wrap it up, I suppose, is that some companies, some businesses, and maybe some communities are going to have to take a little bit of a gamble if they want these pubs to survive. Because we always used to, when I was in the newspapers, one of those headlines, or cliched headlines, if you like, but it is true: use it or lose it. And if you don't use these things, they will go, and then you're lamenting their loss. And unfortunately, some have gone, but some, as we just mentioned, are still thriving.
And we are so thrilled that the Peterborough Cathedral, who, let's be honest, need to put on so many events to try and help pay their astronomical costs to keep that building going. It's something like 2 million a year. £2 million a year to keep the doors of the beautiful, iconic Peterborough Cathedral open. So they need to put stuff on. They need to put events on. And this summer, Unofficial Galaxies is their summer exhibition. So have a little think about lightsabers. Have a little think about land speed. Is it a land speeder? The car.
I believe so. It's not. It's more of a sort of buggy
Buggy
flying thing, isn't it?
Think about Princess Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, Darth Vader.
I'll think about Princess Leia, all right.
Who are you again? Yoda.
Ewok, Yoda,
Ewok.
Name the cliche. Yeah, I'll have it.
You think about the history of the movies dating back to 1977. You think about all of the costumes. Now, this exhibition, Unofficial Galaxies, it's basically one of the largest Star Wars fan private collections in the whole wide world, opening from July the 19th inside the cathedral. You need to book tickets for it. If you've got any allegiance at all towards the history of this Star Wars film franchise, you must, during the summer holidays, find some time to take the kids, take your friends, take the family along to Unofficial Galaxies. As I say, 19th of July onwards it opens. I think it's really important as well to mention that there's also a number of quiet sessions, because while there'll be music and there'll be excitement and no doubt a bit of noise, if you want to go along during a quiet time, there are quiet sessions. You can find out information on that through their website, and the music and the lighting will be adjusted at those quiet times. Visiting in costume is positively encouraged. So if you are a diehard Star Wars fan that literally maybe has a Darth Vader outfit or any kind of outfit, go along in costume. Think of the pictures you'll better get. Think of the selfies. It will be awesome. What's your kind of view of Unofficial Galaxies, John?
It'll be great, won't it? We've seen the events that they've done in the cathedral before, the dinosaurs last year and the various interstellar ones. I guess it carries on from the sort of
the
Tim
dinosaurs,
Peake type. Yeah.
The dinosaurs and Tim Peake,
Yeah.
Gaia, brilliant. There's something about Star Wars that I think is great, because it's just something very, very different and almost unexpected. Yes, we want to see an amazing kind of image of the globe of the Earth hanging in that beautiful cathedral, and the whole Tim Peake thing and the space travel. Yes, dinosaurs are great. Who doesn't love a dinosaur? The kids particularly enjoyed that exhibition last year. But I think sort of going Hollywood is a great shout.
I mean, imagine if they'd got, rather than the moon, a Death Star floating up there. I'm sure that isn't particularly happening, but just a speculative idea. Yeah, I used to love Star Wars when I was a wee lad. I suppose those sort of things never really leave you, do they?
No,
not
of course not.
really.
Of course not.
When it's on every so often, you see the sort of the toys every so often when you go to Forbidden Planet and places like that, and comic books, etc. So yes, looking forward to it.
So if you're stuck for something to do with the kids, treat them to a visit to the Peterborough Cathedral. You can jump onto the Peterborough Cathedral website for ticket information and book your tickets to unofficial galaxies. We need to mention a couple of other things before our guest arrives, and we're going to speak to Aaron from Good Running Events about the Great Eastern Run happening in October. It'd be great to catch up with Aaron on that. Why did you want to mention Dallas?
Oh, this is just a silly thing that I saw on Twitter that made me chuckle, from somebody called Ross McSweeney, who said he tweeted that a real estate friend of his just drew his attention to an area in North Dallas which appeared to be completely named after EFL clubs. So you have Gillingham Lane, Barnsley Drive, Crawley Lane. This is all part of some city in Dallas. Portsmouth Drive, Peterborough Drive.
I was waiting for that.
Shrewsbury Drive, Port Vale Drive. Who wouldn't want to live on Port Vale Drive?
Well,
Blackpool Lane.
It's interesting, isn't it, that countries abroad, I mean, there's lots of tie-ins, of course, with American history and our history, but it's good to know that Peterborough is in there. I wonder if anyone from Dallas who lives in Peterborough Drive can somehow hear this podcast and kind of, give us a little...
And tell us if there's any ex-players living there, or whether they've got sort of, I don't know, goalposts or something, or whether Kenny Charlery walks down there, or I doubt it very much.
Well, if you own a house on Peterborough Drive in Dallas and you need a name for your house, Chris Turner Mansion.
Yeah, that would
Kenny
be...
Charlery Towers. Mark Tyler Towers. It's got a better ring to it.
That would probably be better.
Chalkboard. Why is the Chalkboard?
A bit of a success story for them. They're opening up a second premises at Lynchwood Business Park, the Chalkboard Cafe, a smaller version of the Chalkboard, ready for your takeaway needs at breakfast and lunch, with some seating inside.
It sounds like an advert. You're doing an advert for the Chalkboard.
Yeah, I guess I am.
For all of your takeaway needs.
They've not paid me or anything like that.
I
just think it's
You've had a free chicken sandwich.
If I did, I would be very happy. Or a free afternoon teas.
Afternoon teas. That's what the Chalkboard are famous for,
aren't they?
Yes.
So I just wanted to promote that a little bit for them, because it's nice to see. We spoke about in the first part about places that are struggling. Well, that seems like a good venture for them in that area, so hopefully it will be a success. Maybe there'll be, we'll get them on one of these days as well.
Can I just give a little mention to the Westgate Grill restaurant that used to be Wimpy? They for all of your quarter pounder cheese needs,
all of your grilling needs,
all of your chocolate milkshake needs, your Knickerbocker Glory needs.
I've got so many. I'm joking.
So we've mentioned the Chalkboard, we've mentioned these place names in Dallas, we've mentioned the unofficial galaxies. One final thing to quickly mention before we meet Aaron, our guest on the podcast this time around, and that's Nathan's incredible artwork on embankments.
Absolutely, not far from the Chalkboard number 1. Yes, he's painted these brilliant city scenes on that sort of that toilet block area that's there, which was an absolute hotspot for graffiti taggers and all sorts going on there. He's turned it into this canvas celebrating many of the jewels in Peterborough's crown. You will have seen it because it's gone from white, a sort of dirty white, to a sort of bright orange sunrise view, and you can sit obviously in the embankment for miles around. It looks fantastic. You can see it from the council offices when you look out on there. You can see it all. It looks so beautiful, and the amount of press coverage that has gained. So it just goes to show that it's something, street art, good art, is something that can really revitalise an area very quickly. We're lucky to have Nathan, we've said it many times
really
before,
are.
and many other artists.
Nathan Murdoch, we salute your work, keep it going. Wherever you want to go and do some street art, go and do the street art. I have a quick question about it.
Yes.
Does the Peterborough City Council actively encourage Nathan and Street Art Hire to get out there and do this art, or is it a little bit Banksy? Is it a little bit turn up, do it, get out? I don't know.
That's more down to. Obviously this one is in conjunction with the council. Sometimes he does take spots that he knows are derelict and does them. I don't think he'll mind us saying that. He doesn't just rock up and just do them or anything like that. But he has like a menu almost of places that he'd like to tackle, shall we say. And
the fact that it goes so viral so quickly when images are shown on social media, I think speaks volumes for how appealing it is to people.
Yeah, well, we mentioned the charters in the first half. We know all the things. Still, where Posh Fish and Chips is along there, still the characters are all there along there. You could just name so many places that he and many of his companions, if you like, his colleagues, have tackled across the city. Long may it continue.